we started dealing with Jephthah, and we saw Jephthah in exile. And we saw that there were three things that will bar this man from becoming a leader. Number one, he was a son of a prostitute. And that alone bars him from becoming a leader. And then number two thing is that the law of Moses also barred him from even appearing in the presence of God, because he is from a strange woman or a stranger. And then the third thing that was the hurdle was about he went in and joined the group of bandits, and he became the commander of the armed robbers. So if there is anything to be considered, these three things must be dealt with. But God have to change a natural law and then intervene and work with it. Do you know that when sometimes God intervenes, he breaks some natural laws in order for him to go beyond? Nobody can. You cannot break the natural law, because we have a limit. Our scope is to watch and observe all what God has spoken. Let him alone break his own and let something come out, because your scope is that, even though he's a bastard, or even though he is this, let's go and choose him. That's your own method. That one, God bars you from even considering and having that thought. Sometimes when God wants to do something, he goes beyond the natural means, and that becomes the supernatural. So he takes the supernatural to install and make something out of natural. And so we saw him very handicapped. Then yesterday we did another series, the second part of it, which was that now Jephthah being exalted. And how he got exalted was that now the brethren have really located that there is something that they are missing. And we say, look, let your word and your lifestyle have an influence, an impact over people. He was a mighty man of valor. He was a really man. And therefore, when they were just looking for someone to lead in battle against their foes, this man will be there to shine up and direct them to go into that battle. So that the Ammonites are really, really stubborn guys. You defeat them today, they come. So when they see a persistent leader, they will learn a lesson. So we learn the lesson that we have to live a life of what? Influence. We have to be very influential, both in our society, in our culture, in our church, everywhere. Our home is the number one that we have to have an influence. And then today we end with, that I've been using the XXX, exile, exalted. This morning we are also going to do with the last X, which is he became excited. In his excitement, what is it? That when a man becomes excited, what is it that he has to be aware of? Your excitement doesn't give you the license to break the rule. Your excitement can easily lead you into danger. I've seen people, when they are so excited, get intoxicated, and by the time they see, they wind up in doing things that are mischievous and miscalculated, because they never think that they could have done that, just because of the excitement brought in so many troubles. And therefore we are pinned against our excitement, just to watch when excitement comes. Make sure that you fall within the category, you fall within the God-given excitement that it will be. So this morning we are also going to take our message onto excitement. So let's now turn to the chapter 11 again. Now here is it. The people have already swore unto Jephthah, we are going to make you to become the head over us. So Jephthah has agreed. That Jephthah has repeated the same words unto God in Mizpah, telling him that this is the people, this is the oath that they have taken, and therefore they are going to execute it. So Jephthah went in, and right away he took up some envoys. Go down and tell the Amorites. The first envoy went them and told them exactly, look, this is the history of Israel. For 300 years, for 300 years that we settled over here, this land has been over our control. You remember that we have to pass through your land and other issues. So many other nations closed their doors to us until God submitted them and then gave that land unto us. So if you have any grievance, you should have lifted this grievance far back 300 years ago. Why you waited until now? And these kings will not even budge, but will still put up their threats. And he set up another second envoy. You see, this is a man of action. He doesn't just move by his instinct. He is patiently watching. Anybody who wants to engage with the Lord, the first attribute that you have to have is patience. Because sometimes God will behave like not a father. Sometimes he will behave like not a good judge. And sometimes he will also behave as not a good friend. These three things, God is a good father, and God is a good friend, and God is a good judge. But these three things are the very elements of who God is. But sometimes you fail to see these attributes in God. And the only person that can master that courage is the one who have patience. So this man put up that letters over there, set up an envoy, and yet they will resist. Now I turn into the verse number 29. Verse number 29. This tells us that this man was somebody that is chosen by God. Listen, verse 29. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. So here we can now see how his strategy and how progressively he was going. He was somebody who was fearless, and we know that he is a man of valor. The Bible have indicated it in the verse number 1 that he was a mighty warrior. A mighty warrior. When an Israelite tell you that someone is a mighty warrior, that means that he is a man of valor. A man of valor. 30. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, if you give the Ammonites into my hand, verse 31, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. So this man entered into a covenant with the Lord. Sometimes covenants are done out of conscious and sometimes out of unconscionable. You see, where we begin to falter is that anything that will proceed out of our heart when it is verbally or what is an inward kind of discussion, engagement, is considered as a vow, a pledge, or covenant. You can either come out boldly to say it, or you can also determine in your heart, what do you do with your vow? And this is exactly, this man knew exactly the hand of God was going to lead him into victory. But he never engaged in the issue before he began to vow. There are so many people, when they see it before they vow. But you see, our faith even makes us to not to even engage it, not to see it before you vow. This man was determined. His faith told him that God was going to be behind him 100%, and that battle was not going to be his. Even though he was a mighty man of valor, he was dependent upon God. The Spirit of the Lord has come upon him, and God, you see, what God was going to do, he didn't even ask him for any vow. He never asked him that you have to exchange something before you can. God was going to do it regardless of the vow. By the moment you make a vow, you must make sure that you write it down. Don't make an empty vow and then write it and say that it doesn't matter. Beloved, it will get to a point that you will get to that point where you have to honor the vow. In your excitement, in the joy of you knowing that God is going to do it, you look at the other side. The joy that exudes in you makes you to have that pledge. Look at the verse 32. Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hand. He devastated 20 towns from Aroah to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel Kamem. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. So here comes in every city that is called within the Ammonites' control was now under submission once again. So here is it. God has given him the victory. God has just said it, that I'm going to give it to you. But regardless of whether this man would have made even a vow or not, God never required him, but he went out of his excitement to make a vow. God is not comfortable with the foolish pledges. If you pledge and you know you cannot do it, don't do it. And here is it. I really thank God that we are having efficient and proficient people on this line. Just last week, they were just saying that let's try to help our pastor in every way. I thank God that we don't even cajole people, twist people's arm, give unto the pastor, regardless of whether you give or not. I am not excited about anything, but I really thank God when someone just come out and say that I'm just going to do it. Fine. But my whole fact is that it is not that which prompts me to do God's work or not. Regardless of whether you pledge or not, that is my duty. It is a cause that is set upon me. It is necessity. It is not an option. I have no option. Let me tell you, I have no option. I don't have option. I don't have option to go ahead and to do God's work. And therefore, I have raised my hand unto him. Wherever he puts me, I will make hay of it, regardless of whether there is money or no money, regardless of whether I'm going to get a brighter things then there or not. I am not doing this just because I needed money. I'm not doing this because I needed someone to support me, regardless of that. And therefore, praise God, the psalm came out of their necessity and saw that we wanted to pledge. Praise God for it. And I just admire it because they wanted to challenge God and to see what God can do. And I will never rest upon it because I know exactly how it takes for someone to raise $10 in America. And I never just looked at it as a small thing of your struggle. It doesn't matter what you just think about and say that, oh, I'm going to give something to a pastor. Beloved, I don't rest upon this. I don't want to eat anybody's money or just enjoy somebody and let the person know. You become the constant watch on my tower. You become the constant watch on the paper that I hold. I carry you everywhere that I go. Whether I am sitting and driving alone, when I'm very quiet at the doctor's waiting room, when I'm sitting at a point, sometimes at my shower, and when I'm even in the restroom, whose heart comes upon me is the one who is now helping me to make the headway that God's word must be met. And these are the people become the first line of force. If I can pray for anybody, let me tell you the truth. These are the people, I put them first. And so here this man, I've just gone in and have had the very victory. Now listen, When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of a tambourine? She was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh, my daughter, you have made me miserable and wretched, because I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." Ha! So here this man, even in his misery, he only gave the vow in his excitement. But when the time of misery came, this is where I wanted to land. You see, sometimes when we make a vow, we think that the vow that we have made, God was going to help us to achieve it. And therefore, God will help us to achieve it, sometimes through the narrow means and the restriction of it. Then you begin to think that, wow, if I break and I do this thing, these things are not going to be whole. What do? You just have to remember to do it. Because if this is what you are going to do, you have to set a plan and a program for it. The moment God begins to give me the victory, this is how the whole thing is. If I say that I am just going to do this, I have to set perimeters around it. Between this time and this time, when God has been able to bring me into victory, the first stage of the program will be this. The second stage will be that. And the third stage. If you're going to divide it, the program into 4 groups, make sure that you do it into 4 groups. If you wanted to do it at a whole ransom, boom, one time, and then you are done with it, that's all up to you. Some people in their program, they begin to program it as they go along. One phase upon first phase, second phase, third phase, and the fourth phase. Or some people break it into 3 phases that they can be able to do, but staying within the confinement, because there will be a time that it will be miserable. You will not even be called, and you will have no appetite to fulfill your vow. And if you are not careful, you will abandon the vow. But here this man have the option to abandon the vow. He said, even though you have made me miserable, yet I will stay within the vow. And so he will. And a lot of people think, when you look at the conclusion of the story, God never spoke about what became of the daughter. But we know, but in many other instances, when you read, some are saying that, Jephthah even sacrificed his only daughter on the burnt offering and killed. Beloved, when you look into the book of Deuteronomy, God has already said that he doesn't want any sacrifice of a human sacrifice, and warned the Israelites that they should not even imitate what the others, the molars, do, what other people do in their religion, and how they present and give their daughters into molar, and they kill their daughters. And even it was a practice of the Greek culture. It was a practice of all the Ammonites and every nation around them, that they give human sacrifices. God doesn't want them to do it. Even at the point when God wanted Abraham to do it, and Abraham was right there to strike Isaac, God said that no, that is not. It's immorally, it's morally wrong, and it is immoral for someone to go and kill a human being and give him as a sacrifice only to God. God doesn't insist that. God have never asked that. The only person he asked him, he even changed the thought of it. He wanted to put him to his limit, and therefore God did it. So in this sense, no Israelite is asked to do that thing. So we saw in many other instances, the end of this woman is that, let me tell you what happened. Then verse 36, "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised. now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Amorites. But grant me this one request. She said, give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry. If this woman was going to be killed, what concerned marriage? But the whole thing was that this lady never married. Do you know that Israel, it's a taboo in their kind of a time for a woman to stay without a husband? And it is the biggest deal that you will live your life as an adult without a husband. And so at that point, this woman just said, the young girl said, give me the chance. Let me go out there. Let me celebrate with my friends. And I will be roaming on the planet and roaming on the hills for that long time. And I'm expecting that after that, I will come in and then have my commitment unto the Lord. This woman stayed single, regardless of what? The line of this man could not continue. That was the only daughter. That was the only child. And if this child is not going to bring forth any children, that means the end of the genealogy ends there. There's not going to be a shift anymore. End with this girl. And the girl remained single and without any husband until. So it became another kind of a freedom movement that the young girls in Israel, there is a celebration that goes on like this. That when it comes to that, virgins will be left alone to be roaming, and they will roam until. So this is the time to see whether your daughter is a virgin, because you can never do that when you are not a virgin and you go in to join the group of virgins. You will be struck dead in the beginning. You will be struck dead. So parents now begin to see whether your daughter is a virgin. And woe unto people who say that I'm a virgin, I'm a virgin. Go and show yourself on the hill. You will go and you will never come back again. And so that became a history for Israel to celebrate virgins who go around. And then, so beloved, where are we driving this? In the excitement of this man, he made a vow. But in the misery of within the vows, he continued to rely upon God. And have you made a pledge unto God? Have you said something out of your heart that you said you're going to do? Beloved, have you done it? Any word that is uttered inside, visible or invisible, audible or unaudible, God is watching. He watches. He never requested you to do something. But as long as you made it, a child of God can be seen by your consistency and by the very way that you handle the things of God. If you fear the Lord and you make up any kind of commitment, God sees it as serious, a covenant that you have entered. You don't have to cut your blood. You don't have to stand in the public to do it. Sometimes even on your prayer knee, you say, the Lord Jesus, give me the strength that I will always read the Bible. Father, give me the strength. I will always be at the place where Bible study is. Father, give me the strength that I will be able to use the skills that you have given on me right in the church, so that if there is somebody that they will rely upon, it's me. And you have given yourself into this way. Now you begin to go to church even late. You have forgiven that you want to be a Sunday school teacher. You are always late too. You are not serious with God. Beloved, if you make a vow, look at the consequences of it. Don't ever say anything. Either it will be better for you to show up without a vow and go in and help, rather than to say that I'm going to do this thing every Sunday. Beloved, if you say that, you don't have to let the children come before you go in as a Sunday school teacher. Whether you are just an adult teacher, you don't have to let your members to come and sit down, wait for the teacher to come in late. Beloved, this is the function of vows. And this man said that even in my misery, I have, and I cannot break the vow. I challenge you this morning. If there is any vow that God is reminding you this morning, I want you to go back and then retrace any vow little talk that you said, anything that you spoke, whatever that is said, heard audibly or heard in any way, my beloved, you have to go back unto God. Vows are dangerous. Don't make vows. Don't be forced and to be cajoled into making vows. But as long as you make a vow, hey, you have to honor it. You have to fulfill it. May God strengthen us, that we will not be like the foolish guys who make vows and make utterances when we don't mean it. Beloved, that means that you don't have a private life and you don't have a public life. Your lifestyle is the same. Whether you make it in public or in private, God holds you responsible. What vow is God reminding you this morning? May God's grace be upon us, that we will do exploit in Him. Amen.